So now we're going to talk about the interstate expansion, the successful launch of your brand in new markets. Please welcome the VP of Marketing and Communications, the one and only Tilt Holdings, Amy Larson. Let's hear it for Amy Larson.
Am I on? Good morning. Hi, I'm Amy Larson. Thank you for that really kind intro. I'd like to ask our fellow Tilt Holdings rep, CEO Gary Santo, to join us on stage, as well as the CEO of Old Pal, Rusty Wilenkins. Oops, I'm going to sit here.
Where should I sit? Here?
Yeah.
Here?
Here you go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. I'm so happy to be joined by these two amazing CEOs, two of the best I've had the opportunity to work with. As you know, those of us who've been in the cannabis industry for a while, you know, we see a lot of the same, but these two, the heads of these two companies have taken a slightly different approach to growth and expansion. And for those who aren't familiar, I'd love to ask you guys to give just a quick overview of your strategic vision for growing the cannabis market for your respective companies.
For sure. Hi, I'm Rusty. You know, our vision with Old Pal has always been to sort of make cannabis accessible to everyone around the country. You know, our brand is about bringing people together with cannabis and sort of simplifying the whole thing, throwing back to a time when, you know, you smoke joints with your friends, and, you know, most people, if they close their eyes and think about the first time they smoked weed, they have no clue what the strain was. They can't tell you what the THC percentage was. They can tell you who they were with and the experience they had. And our brand is all about bringing that to people nationwide.
Great. My name's Gary Santo at Tilt, and we're a multi-state operator, but we take a slightly different view, I think, to how we run our operations. So we find brands like Rusty's Old Pal brand, authentic brands that have a lifestyle associated with them and a real architecture that has worked well in highly competitive markets, whether it's California, Colorado, Washington State. And we work to bring them east. And I think one of the things that separates us from a lot of other folks that you'll hear talk about brands is when you talk, if you're a brand and you're looking to come east or work with a MSO or partner, I think one of the things you have to make sure you always ask is, how are you allocating biomass? How are you allocating production time? Am I on equal footing with your products, or am I taking a back seat to your products? At Tilt, you're on equal footing. If you're doing your job, if Rusty and his team are keeping his brand tight and they're really marketing it and there's tremendous demand, we will allocate all of our biomass and all of our production time to his brand, and we will put ours on the back shelf. And I think that's what separates us in the brand partnerships we tend to have.
And to that point, you know, when we launched Massachusetts with Tilt, they did that. They took biomass that could have gone into their Standards Farm brands and allocated it to us. That experience with a partner is just like what you want, and it's easy to lean in and push growth in those markets when you know the biomass is there to support the sales and demand you're generating.
And now, Rusty, the way that you have organized Old Pal is a little bit different than a lot of other brands across the country. How did you know when you were ready to expand beyond that first state, and how did you make the decision to move that forward?
So for us, you know, we were fortunate that we were a brand first. We don't own a facility. We don't cultivate, manufacture, distribute cannabis. So for us, it was really, once we were established in California and we'd really dialed in our SOPs, we had the marketing team in place that could scale nationwide. It was easy to start looking around and saying, hey, where can we go do this? You know, we're playing in California. We're doing a great job. The biggest piece was really putting in place a production and marketing team that could scale nationwide, go to the market, stand up the partners, and do the QC necessary to provide that, you know, Old Pal lifestyle experience around the entire country. And, you know, weed in Ohio and weed in Boston and weed in California are all different, but we do provide a consumer a consistent experience market to market to market with that team.
You know, and I think that was really a game changer for us when we rolled them out, because the advanced work that they had done building demand allowed us to almost pretty much predict how much we needed to produce on that first batch run, so that you want a little bit of a stock out so you get that scarcity and the allure of scarcity, but you don't want to stock out so fast or only reach 5 or 6 stores and have sold out completely, or you're not doing your job helping spread the brand around. So Rusty and his team are a literal machine when it comes to basically deriving that kind of brand activation in the market. So it makes our job selling and fulfilling a lot easier.
And Gary, to build on that a little bit, when this kind of brand partnership strategy is something that has been relatively new in Denver at Tilt. What are the kind of things that you look for, that we look for in brand partners in order to bring them, what makes a good fit?
Sure. It's a great question, because there are a lot of brands out there, and how do you know which ones to choose, right? And most of the brands pitch themselves the same way, and they have a loyal following. So first we look at these hyper-competitive markets, and we try to figure out who has held their position. So they started out with some kind of a hook. Maybe it's more than just price and potency. Maybe it's the lifestyle. Maybe it's a form factor. Maybe it's a special formulation. And did that sustain? Did you hold your position in California or Colorado? Did you hold your price point? And that starts the conversation. So we're looking for brands that have a true architecture behind them. You're not trying to be everything to everybody all the time. You're not just playing for the upper left-hand quadrant where it's super high premium and everybody's trying to go to the same spot. Because what we notice in our markets is you need to have product up and down the spectrum. There's the ultra premium, there's the regular premium, there's the mid-market, there's the value play. Our job is to try to bring that portfolio to all of the retail dispensaries that we sell to. So give me an authentic brand, give me an authentic CEO and a leader who's invested. If it's a celebrity brand where it's just a face only and you never get a chance to see that person invested, there's no origin story, that fit probably doesn't work as well for us.
And then Rusty, as you're looking for brand partners across the country to help you expand, what do you really look for in a partner, one? And then two, what other foundational pieces from the Old Pal side, positions, do you typically look to put into place to help ensure success?
Absolutely. When it comes to a partner, I used to always go for the shiny object and the biggest grow and everything else, and I've really walked that back quite a bit. As we've done now like 8 of these deals, you start to learn that the people are the most important thing. So the part of allocating biomass, it doesn't matter how big your partner's grow is if you're not getting it. And it really comes down to working with people that actually believe in your brand, that your brand resonates with, that sort of believe the ethos of the brand. If they don't believe in what we're doing, they're doing it for the press release, and they're never going to actually allocate product our way and try. We want to work with the people that are doing this to build a great business together, and partners that believe in our brand typically do that. On the second piece, for us, we won't go to a market unless we're putting people on the ground. If you don't interact with an Old Pal person, there's no way you can understand what our brand is. We are authentic. Like, I've sold weed basically my whole life. My partner and I have been in this industry over 10 years. Like, we've seen everything, the bags of cash, the truckloads of weed, like before metric. And, if you don't get to interact with us and sort of feel that authenticity and sort of who we are, there's no way you could understand our brand as a partner, as a retailer. We throw parties in every state we're in. We really want people to understand the vibe of what we're trying to do.
And then, Gary, I know, aside from the plant-touching sides of Tilt, how does this third partner, this kind of brand partnership strategy impact across other business units, and how do you think that's speaking to investors in the broader community?
Sure. I mean, we're lucky that we happen to have a whole part of our business that doesn't even touch the plant. So our Jupiter research team is in inhalation and ancillary products and accessories. So they are the engine that helped bring the C-cell technology into the U.S. Prior to that, the C-cell technology and vaporization was being used mostly for nicotine and tobacco. So the founder of Jupiter, Mark Scatterday, he's the chair of our board, worked for, I think, a couple of years with the factory out in China to bring that over. We have a full-blown lab that is constantly doing R&D and product development because we think there's a whole next generation of vaping coming down the path. The high-viscosity vape cartridges, they're still selling, but you can see people are moving towards the waxes, the shatters, the hashes, almost a solid. And it's a completely different vaporization piece. So what we're noticing is with the brands we're working with, as they think about product development, we have hardware that we're developing alongside of them so that they're perfectly tuned up and matched. And to put that into perspective, I think about 20% of our revenue last year came from customers of both sides of the plant touching and non-plant touching. By the time we exited last year, it was about 43%. So having both that hardware and non-plant touching piece, having the plant touching piece, and then finding brands that play up and down the spectrum, we can really give that full service up and down.
And I think that to that point too, Rusty, that's helped lead to a little bit of product innovation through partnership for Old Pal.
For sure. You know, when we started Old Pal, the original brand deck had 3 products in it. It had an 8th, it had our Ready to Roll, and it had our brownie. It took us, call it 3 years to find the right partner to produce the brownie, but Tilt is an amazing chef in Massachusetts. He put together, you know, I think it's like a 5-ingredient brownie. It's as classic as you can be. It's the definition of a pot brownie, and it's awesome. I'm just beyond stoked to work on that with them. It was so cool to get to launch that.
And yeah, that's key. We tend to give our brand partners full run of our operations. So whether it's the hardware side, or whether it's the kitchens, whether it's the lab, as long as it's allowable in the market that you're in, we'll let you develop that product. So even though we could sell a brownie on our own and put our own name on it, didn't make any sense. I mean, you can't find anything more on brand than a brownie for Old Pal. So I had a lot of fun taste testing all of those, but you know, I think it's a phenomenal partnership when you can do things like that and realize that it's okay to let your people create product for somebody else, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And there should be something in it for everybody for these partnerships to work.
And then Rusty, to you a little bit, as you've expanded and talking to some of the other brands and investors out there, what are some of the challenges that you've faced that might serve a little bit as a warning for others?
I'd say the first was understanding that you need to localize for the market you're going to. When we started the company, all of our imagery was California, palm trees, beach vibes, nothing else. As we've expanded, all of our content gets shot in the states we're in. We need the consumer to resonate with what we're doing, and the consumer in Boston doesn't necessarily see palm trees all that often. We want to really make our product fit the market we're in. Localizing was really like the biggest thing in terms of making sure we were fit. And in terms of challenges, biomass has traditionally been tough for us. Our product is always in demand. We do the events, we throw the parties, we do everything we can to drive demand. We need to make sure that we align with partners that can support that demand, because as a more value-oriented brand, we're not doing our consumers justice when we're not on shelves. We need to be on every shelf every day. And so if we have a billboard driving consumers to Tilt's store and they don't have Old Pal on the shelf, it's a bad experience for everyone involved. So really managing our demand generation to sort of keep up with our partners' supply capabilities and their expectations is really one of the biggest challenges as we go around the country.
Yeah, I think for us, too, it's about demand planning. So in Massachusetts, we sell into about 60 or 70% of the retail stores. In Pennsylvania, about 90% of the retail stores. So our job is to make sure that our brand partners are spread out. It would be very easy. We could probably sell all of your stock to the top 5 stores in Massachusetts and be done. And then we could all take the rest of the day off. But at the end of the day, we know that doesn't help you, it doesn't help us, because those people aren't going to always buy over and over again. You want to spread it out. That's one of the challenges to CPG in this industry. If you're in Massachusetts, you get a total of 3 stores. If you're trying to create your own brand, or if you're limiting that brand that you're partnering with to just your retail footprint, you're trying to create a national brand with 3 stores. So making sure we get that distribution across the state is very, very important to us.
And I think to build on that too, as we look at partners to bring on, I think there's a lot of education from our team regarding what form factors work and are allowable. Our compliance team runs so deep. What kind of how do we tackle that?
It's a great question. We actually moved part of our compliance team under corporate development, where all of our brand partnerships come from. And that was intentional, because to get these products approved, you almost have to become as much of an expert when submitting the paperwork as if the brand was your own. Getting into the deep formulations, trying to look up and see what's been previously approved in these states. So before they can say no, you've given them 5 reasons to say yes. And certain states are more challenging than the others. We're in Ohio, we're in Pennsylvania. Those are still emerging markets where adult use is still on the horizon but not imminent. And you're having battles between legislators and Department of Health and things like that. So the team has done a phenomenal job navigating that to get the products approved, but then also in the right cadence. we want to make sure we're launching something that really reflects the brand itself when it comes into the market. Does it have the fidelity? Does it have the cachet? Or is it just another pre-roll that you're throwing out there? And is that really what you want to hang your hat on? So helping work with the brands to figure out what's the right product order, what's the right formulation, and how do we maintain that integrity, even if we have to change the packaging or change the form factor or lose the palm trees.
And Rusty, that's what we tackled in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, as a brand, like going nationwide in this industry means you sort of need to make compromises that you can live with. You know, when we went to Pennsylvania, they don't like Mylar bags for flour. It's something we've done nationwide. We had to sort of change our packaging, design, you know, a white dram with a beautiful label on it. The wording is very limiting in that state. It's still super medical. But we do get to get our brand out there, interact with the consumer, and sort of start building the relationship for this emerging market.
So I know we have just a couple minutes left. So as a little bit of a parting gift, what's your best piece of advice for brands who are looking to expand beyond their current borders? Gary,
I'd say, like, really making sure your SOPs are dialed, like bilingual, pictures. Make sure that if you handed it to someone that's never rolled a joint in their life, they can make your product look exactly like you want it to. It's wild to think about, but things that seem super obvious when you're sitting in your facility or standing there talking to someone, they don't translate over text. And when you're trying to send someone in a state where they have a completely different production facility, different metric requirements, different everything, the steps to build your product, you really need to take it down to like the most detailed possible way to do it.
And I would add, if you're a brand and you're seeking a partner, be authentic, have a good story behind what the brand is, a good architecture, what it is, even if it's just a single form factor. It's okay if you're just an edible. It's okay if you're just a pre-roll, as long as there's something about your pre-roll that really is a hook for the market you're going into, and it's something that can be done and done legally. I think I go back to what I said earlier, is one of the things you do have to ask, though, of your brand partners is, how are you going to allocate that biomass in the workflow, knowing that people are chasing margin these days, knowing that there's limited production at times and limited biomass. You want to make sure that you're not taking that back seat, because that's going to affect your ability to expand as a brand. So ask a few of those questions, see where they go. You know, it's a hard thing for MSOs to do, honestly. They're having to share in that. They'll always make more money selling bulk flour and selling their own product. But I think as we start to see more and more CPG, I know for us, you know, at the end of the day, the softness that we have heard about and we've experienced with our own branded products on the wholesale side, on our brand partner side, we haven't experienced. We've sold through everything we created, not just for Rusty's brand, but Her Highness and Arrow and 1906. You know, and the price point has stayed the same. So there's a reason for that. And I think it's picking good partners, but then, you know, again, to be a good partner back to them.
30 seconds. What's the future of legalization? Give me a 5-word answer.
It's like soccer.
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
It's a sport of the future. No, you know, I feel like there'll be something incremental. The question is, what will it really mean to the day-to-day? Yes, it will be a cloud that lifts off all of us, whether it's safe banking or whatever it happens to be. It certainly feels like Schumer and the Senate are starting to realize they're going to have to do something. They're not going to be able to legislate away 100 years of bad behavior with one piece. And it's really going to be starting that, and then for those of us in the industry, maintaining the vigilance and being very intentional in everything that we do to show that if you give us this little bit, we're going to do the right things with it, whether it's social equity or how we grow and how we build our companies responsibly and move forward that way. But it does feel like something's coming. I just don't know what yet.
Yeah, it feels like something's coming. You know, when we sit here and think about how it affects our business, it doesn't change a whole lot. Federal legalization and interstate commerce are two very different things, and I don't think interstate commerce is really on the horizon in my foreseeable future. When I think about my 2-3 year window, I'm thinking about how we build the best brand we can with the best partners we can in each market, state by state by state. As more states legalize, we'll get to those states, but the federal thing for us specifically isn't necessarily what we watch day to day.
Great. Well, I think that's our time today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Rusty. And we will see you around later at the conference.